Yes, people, welcome back. I was about to say to the Backpacking Psychonaut, but to the new podcast. I've not come up with a name yet. I've kind of had the realization that trying to think of the name is the hardest part of starting any business. So I thought I'm just gonna leave the name alone for a minute and hopefully just something naturally emerges. Alan Watts came up with a really good quote, which is muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. And I think if I just leave the idea of the name, like something will just sprout up into my mind eventually. But yeah, thank you very much for checking back in with the podcast, people. For those that haven't listened before, my name's Alex Rogers. I'm someone who is on a journey to understand my own consciousness and refine the lens of how I perceive consciousness. And I'm on an inwards journey that I'm really trying to get to the core of what the human existence is. And maybe I'm doing that well, maybe I'm not, but I'm just going on my own journey and sharing that with others. And coming from a place where I was like extremely socially anxious, I had a lot of mental health issues. Like I remember I couldn't speak to, and I've relayed this in the podcast before, but I couldn't speak to my grandparents like without getting anxiety. I remember locking myself in the room when they would come into the house and just pretending I was asleep. I couldn't speak to women. Like anytime I looked at a woman in the eyes, like it would send my core into a meltdown. My whole body would like just crumble. Like I would get really like panicky and my whole body would flare up to the point where my hands would be shaking. It'd be in and out of my pockets. My brain would start getting like massive fog, like to the point where my thoughts were really clouded. My heart rate would be like it's about to explode. And I worked in a lot of it. I was working in Morrison's at the time, and I used to have to run to the refrigerators and run to the freezer to like hide there so I wouldn't see people that I knew were in the store. Like I'd catch someone out of the peripheral vision of my mind, and it'd be someone I knew from school, and I would just run in the freezer so I didn't have to speak to them. Like really dark existence. And because the social anxiety was so bad, I would then have this sense of like extreme apathy and depression where I couldn't create change in my life. And so I would just sit in my room and seclude myself more. And the more I would seclude myself, the more then the energy of I can't fix this, that I'm stuck, I'm broken, that would feed on itself, and it led to very like suicidal tendencies. And it was a very dark existence that I lived in. And from outwards point of view, you'd look at me and like just think he was normal, but the interior of that was hard. Like it was really difficult for me. And having gone through that process to the point where like now I feel very well grounded. I feel like I'm understanding who I am, and my existence isn't plagued by extreme heights and depths. I feel very calm. I feel like I'm just like a bob on like them little floats that you get in the ocean. I'm kind of just floating around, and the ocean being my psyche, and that little bob just being me. I'm very much flowing with it now instead of being without the bob and being like drowning and kind of thrashing around and trying to keep afloat. I feel like I just float nicely. And I think the thrashing will come later on in my life again because we work in cycles, but I'll be more calm and it's happening and it won't be as extreme. Like I was really close to drowning in my own psyche is the only way I can put it. And if you relate, if you know what that feels like, it's not a nice experience. People don't understand it. And people can't ever understand the contextual parts of your mind. Like no one can ever truly understand you, and it can feel very alone. But once you start realizing that there is ways to build a relationship with your psyche, with yourself, through understanding psychology or spirituality, from building a relationship with the noise in your mind, the thought process in your mind through deep meditation or your relationship with God, whatever it is, whatever vehicle that is, through health and exercise, there's vehicles that can help you stay calm and stay afloat and to better yourselves. And this is what the podcast is for. It's to make you aware of as many vehicles that I know are possible, and there's vehicles that I don't know yet that I'm still yet to learn. But these are just what I talk about on my podcast, is the things that have helped me and the modalities that I've used and the methods that I've used to impact change in my life. And I just want to convey that to other people. And so, yeah, that's where the podcast is. That's what it's about. That's how it's going to help, or I hope it's going to help. And I really hope that you just tune in every week, just because I really think it does help. I really think the advice that I have will help if you apply it. And there's wisdom. There is little bits of wisdom in a lot of the words that I say. I'd also be lying if I didn't want this podcast to be a business adventure. I like the idea of having my own business, of having like a pursuit and something that I've created that frees me up financially, frees up my family financially and the people I want to look after, to give me freedom and autonomy over my schedule. That's a huge thing. I think we live in a world where you get told what to do a lot and you have to live in systems, and the systems make you feel like a cog in the machine. And I feel like if you can create something where you create the systems, you no longer feel like the cog in the machine. You are the person creating the machine. And I think there's a lot of empowerment that comes through that. And I really do like the idea of having your own business. And I would like this podcast to be monetizable at one point. It is a big goal. It's one of the top goals of it, but it's not the only thing. I couldn't just create something for the sake of money. It just doesn't work for me. I wish I could, because then I'd probably be rich. But I feel this inclination to have to do something that's meaningful alongside wanting to make money. And I think this podcast finds a pretty good balance of that. And that's where I just need to be disciplined and consistent with it. And that's what I hope I can do with the podcast going forward. So I have actually got some little talking points today, guys. I kind of I didn't know what to post. I didn't know how to introduce myself again or what to talk about. So I did write some little things down just to help me structure it a little bit. But I just wanted to introduce myself to the people that haven't listened, and to just give people a bit of an update of where I am now, for the people that have listened. Because if you've listened to this podcast, I'm like, got a stutter now for some reason, or a lisp. Yeah, if you listen to this podcast for a while, like you'll be quite in tune with the person I am and understand kind of who I am. It probably reveals me talking like this for an hour straight sometimes without break, continuously week after week. Probably revealed a lot of who I am, and you probably understood a lot of who I am and the depths of my suffering. And so there is probably a connection and a relatability between us, even if I don't know you on the other end. Like, if you listen to this podcast consistently, we are people that probably will get along, and we relate to each other. And so I just wanted to give an update for people that don't know who I am, but also for the people that listen, because there was 60 to 100 people per episode on all platforms that were listening to the podcast. And I know that doesn't feel like a lot in terms of social media. There's people getting like thousands of views and millions of views. But if I was to put 60 to 100 people in a room and like have to do this in front of them, that would be giving me like crazy anxiety. It would be a big responsibility for me. So I've just got to see it as the individuals that listen, and you're the people that drive me forward to want to keep learning about myself, and to post these episodes. And when I'd get messages of people going, your podcast has helped, like they were invaluable to me. They really were. They were a nod that I'm doing something of value, and that can just be a motivator that keeps helping you going. So yeah, I have a lot of love for the people that listen to the podcast. I really appreciate it, all the time that you put in. And even if you just check in sporadically, like I really appreciate anyone that gives me a bit of attention, gives me the time to listen to what I'm saying, because at least I'm not speaking to empty walls. And if I can impact someone's life in any sort of way, that's infinitely more meaningful to me than anything I could consciously perceive. And so I've written here the problem with modern life, and I wanted to have a quick discussion around like why I think this, like, things like this podcast and just having a different inflection point is so important now, because like we seem to be at a bit of a turning point with life, where technological advancements and the human predicament are like meeting each other, and the technology seems to be far advancing the human understanding of it, and we seem to be caught in very vicious cycles of addictions and distraction and habits of mind which are becoming very unhealthy. And if you look as humans, as a collective, as a whole, we're in kind of like this mass psychosis of technology addiction. A lot of people are spending 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day staring at a screen, lost in TikTok, lost in Instagram, comparing themselves to others, just doom scrolling. Obesity like rates are rising like quite worryingly. A lot of people have got diabetes, are getting a lot of health issues, like even things like dementia for the older generations. Like, things are increasing and they're getting worse through our lifestyles. And then also we have the mental health crisis with anxiety and depression and suicide rates all increasing like dramatically. Since 2013, when social media really started to kick off, you can see this real increase and rise in the state of like suicide rates and anxiety and depression. And that is, to me, is like really worrying. It's really concerning. You can probably tell in my voice that makes me feel really sad. Like, it's incredibly painful to see the way our society's going, and not to be all doom and gloom, because there is a lot of good things that are happening in the world, but to see the state of how we've let things perpetuate and to get into our life and take control of our consciousness, it is really sad. And I am a victim of this just as much as everyone else. But I feel like it's important for me to post this podcast because anyone that I can speak to that can listen and is maybe stuck in that, or is experiencing anxiety, experiencing depression, is in real like content addiction. They're things that I've managed to transform from. And I don't want this to sound like I know everything, because I don't, but I have managed some inner transformation where like I was in the depths of all these things, and I've managed to bring myself out to like a more conscious level. And I'm in this ever unfolding process of like developing my consciousness to a more sharper way, where I feel more aware and more embodied, and I've managed to escape. Like, I feel incredibly confident about myself. I feel grounded. I can conversate with people. I'm very like good socially. I don't spend hours a day on my phone. I read like roughly a book or more a week. I healthy. I work out consistently. Like, these things I've had to work at. These are things that I've really had to put my time and effort into. And I'm not like perfect. I'm not always mega consistent with these, but there's a continuation through my life where these things have a foothold in them. And it's took me years to get to that point, and it's took me a lot of diving inwards into my own mind to stop the external world from taking away my attention, from determining how my consciousness unfolds into the world. And it does feel like we are getting attacked by the external world now, and there's so many different ways for us to avoid the real world, to avoid going inwards into our own minds, become dissociated, to have anxiety, to have depression. There's all these things that are attacking us: the food industry, the technology industry, social media. Like, it's really scary. And I feel like I can help in some way of that, in a very small way, but I think I have some way of helping. And that's why I want to post a podcast as well, because like we need to collectively band together to fight against the powers of the external world, because they will perpetuate and they will grow. And there's a lot of evil at its core. Like, if you look at the social media companies like TikTok, and it's cancer for your brain. It really is, and it's cancer for your life. It's sapping away your enthusiasm and your vigor and tenacity for life. It's taking all of that away, and it's trying to keep you stuck, and things are trying to keep you in a pigeonhole you. And we don't need that as humans. We're very strong. We've got this like urge of consciousness to give light into the darkness, and we as a collective, we need to take responsibility for that and put light out into the world. And then I put like, why have I got a unique approach? And I think I've spoke about it, but it's because I've been through my own journey of social anxiety, and my own journey of depression, and also just reading a lot of like psychoanalysis, a lot of depth psychology, transpersonal psychology. I feel like the last couple of years I've really put a importance on educating myself on psychology and spirituality and religion, and applying that into the world. I've sat meditation retreats. I meditated for like 5 years straight. I've done these things to really understand the contextual part of my mind, and I think why this podcast is a little bit different. And there will be podcasts that are very similar to me that post even better content. I'm not saying I'm like unique, but why I think it's different to the collective advice of like the self-improvement is because it comes from a more psychological perspective, a more pointing at the truth. Whereas they're just like a lot of social media, the content on there is posting like material. It's a lot of persona engagement, trying to show you that they're better than people, or it's trying to get clicks. Like, this is talking to some inner deeper truths, a spiritual awakening that you can go on. And if you really want to enact change in your life, like, you need to be able to come inwards and traverse your own mind. And I'm just trying to come from that perspective instead of the material perspective that you get from the standard self-improvement advice. And I think that's why my podcast is a different approach to this stuff you see out there. And so that's why I hope that you keep listening. And this is only a short episode. It's just, I've just noticed that I'm like kicking my knee up and down all the time. I hope it's not been shaking the camera. At the minute, guys, this is a thing for just starting things. I haven't got a desk or anything, so I've got a little table that's on my bed, and I've got a stand with my phone on it, and then my laptop on the bed, and the thing here for my microphone is attached to my bedside bedding. So my room looks like a mess right now, and it's not a very like professional setup. But sometimes you just got to start things, and things will improve. But starting is always like the hardest thing. And I've always just thought, whatever you've got right in front of you, just start, and you just make things up as you go. Things just get better. But yeah, I hope you continuously listen, guys. There'll be an episode I'm going to post every Saturday, I believe. And yeah, I hope you listen and just keep engaged with me. And I want to try and give you the best that I can offer. So thank you very much for listening, people. I'm really excited to keep back with the podcast. Hopefully I've come up with a name by the end of next episode. But thank you very much, and I'll see you all in the next episode.